Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all of you. Today we have Dr. Muhammad Asir Ajmal with us. He's a January born Aquarian and is the most popular psychologist in Pakistan. He's hailed as a champion of Sufi psychology and indigenous theory building. Dr. Asir's line of work is devoted to indigenous psychology, psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, music, languages, perennial philosophy, and many other things traditional. He wants to share many of his interests with everyone and educate those who might be interested in his works. He seeks to use his expertise as a resource for psychology students who may have gaps in their learning of psychotherapy. Dr. Saab would like to help those who might be having mental health difficulties and want to help themselves. Dr. Ajmal is particularly interested in Muslim psychology, psychology of poetry, literature, culture, and art, and will be sharing some discussions on these topics. Dr. Asir Ajmal, what a privilege and an honor to have you with us, sir. The floor is all yours,
The privilege is mine.
sir.
So, my understanding was that you wanted me to talk about failure,
Sir.
and especially as it concerns me. First, I really thought about it, and I'm the kind of person who's always thanking God because I think first I thought I was the wrong choice because I've never really, failed absolutely speaking. But then I had to, do a lot of soul searching and look at my life. I would say I've been very lucky, being born in a family which was that of psychologists, pioneers, social scientists, people who thought differently, nonconformists, or like yourself. So I was very lucky and academically, professionally. But then I would say that I started to see the whole thing of success and failure as not as an absolute binary distinction, but more as a continuum. I'll give you an example. One of my passions, how as a teenager one starts to change the world, one wants to start to change the world, and one wants to do everything. So I was that kind of a teenager, and I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to grow up to be a politician, be the prime minister of Pakistan. I wanted to grow up to be, a psychologist like my father, a professor, and so on. And one of these interests actually took hold of me, and I started to play the guitar. And I became adamant that I wanted to go abroad, get a scholarship after metric, and study in Vienna, study music in Vienna. And I wanted to be a music conductor. And my mother was just not having none of it. My father was saying, why not, do what you want, do what your heart desires. My mother was like, nahi, nahi, Asir, tu ki mirasi banna, ਤੈਨੂੰ ਸਾਰੇ ਕਹਿਣਗੇ ਕਿ ਤੂੰ ਇੱਥੇ ਸ਼ਾਦੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਬਾਜੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਫਿਰੇਂਗਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਹੋਣਾ so I would say if I were to consider that kind of opposition was something that made me sort of she really irritated me a lot, and I think that was her plan, to irritate me so much that I would give up that idea. And so I would say that around of age 16, 17, I gave up that idea. So I would say, yes, I failed in that respect in my quest for music. But then again, around the age of 19, 20, I met a couple of people. One of them was a drummer, another one was a keyboard player. There was another bass guitar player. I used to play rhythm guitar and sing. So we formed a band called The Sinners. And but imagine this was 1980s. There were hardly any bands in Pakistan. I don't think there was another band in Lahore at that time. So maybe there was a another one called the Wanderers or something, but that's it. You didn't have that many bands. So so we found ourselves a gig playing at what used to be the Intercontinental Hotel. We would play in the afternoon around lunchtime and get paid 1,000 rupees, which the three of us would split. And that went on for a while I was studying psychology and I was studying French at the French Cultural Center. Um, Obviously, the income wasn't that great from the music, and obviously, we didn't think that performing once a week at Intercontinental was, you know, going to be a career in any sense. So that's the second time when I think I failed in my quest of being a musician, a professional musician. Um, so then, it sort of became a dream that got buried, more or less, for a very long time. And I understand why. See, as I said, if you measure success in pure and failure in pure binary terms, either or terms, I would say that we were mediocres, as musicians. So it wasn't like we were very successful, but it wasn't either that we were total failures. And I, as a psychologist, actually object to this personification or identification with failure. So I would say I could fail 100 times, but I'm never going to be a failure. I'm going to remain who I am. So just as a success a success doesn't make me Mr. Successful, a failure or 100 failures cannot make me Mr. Failure, Mr. Loser. I don't, so I tell everybody that we need to steer clear from this kind of identification. But anyway, so that was the second time. So after a long time, sort of staying in the academia and also working professionally as a clinical psychologist in Britain, I started a YouTube channel because a student really got after me and said, "Sir, you have something to say. You need to get on to YouTube and you need to share your views." So I started to do that. But in the middle of all this, I thought, this is my chance to be a musician once again. I have my own YouTube channel. Why don't I pick up my guitar and start to do something? So one day, I just sat before my camera and I took up my guitar and started to sing. And so I started, Ye kya hua, kaise hua, kab hua, kyun hua, jab hua, अब हुआ वो छोड़ो ये ना सोचो ये
Lovely.
क्या हुआ. So I was very happy and I was getting all these views and comments, and suddenly I got a copyright strike from YouTube.
Really?
It was so funny. There was this Indian film company, EMI, saying, you've got to share your revenue with us. But, there was a lot of legalese with it. But we reserve the right to, do this, that, and the other and proceed legally against you. Having sung this, I was like, oh my God, what is this?
Goodness gracious.
I thought, there goes my YouTube career. So I immediately took down that video from YouTube,
You had to
apologized.
delete. You had to
I
delete
had to
that
delete
actually.
that video. I had to delete that video. I did put it on Facebook because Facebook seems to be not that keen or interested in this stuff so far. But, but that was I would say, the final nail in the coffin of my career as a musician. Because I did write, I did once upon a time, I did write some songs, but I believe that I'm not a songwriter. I like doing poetry, but songwriting is a very, again, very technical and very specialized area, and you need to devote a lot of time, which I don't have. So I thought, okay, but I can sing hundreds of songs. But lo and behold, now I have to go and find out, okay, who sang this song, what's the copyright situation? So sometimes I need to add music to my YouTube videos. So now I have to make sure that I go to Creative Commons or sites that actually are copyright free, that use music free of any copyright strings or any cost or so on. So I thought that was funny how my music career, keeps failing after every decade or two. So it just allows me to spend, but it did, sort of encourage me to sing some folk songs, because folk songs there is no copyright. So I did do a Spanish song, I did do a Chinese song, folk song, and a Punjabi folk song. So I thought maybe I'd do that, but that again, sort of after the initial shock, I just
Kind of
haven't
scares you.
done very much of it. Yeah, music has remained sort of there in the background, but it's failed. Music has failed to take center stage in my life.
That's a good failure. And I'm sure Spanish जो आपने बात की तो one था ना मेरा था वो. Was it
जी
one
जी,
था ना
Guantana,
there you
Guantana
failed.
मेरा, जी बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful song. But Alamgir did that, right?
जी जी, he did the Albela Rahi version of
Alvela
it.
Rai. Yeah, lovely. Okay.
So that's one area. But apart from that, I feel that there have been so many times I have failed at one thing or another. Another one of these things, now that we're talking about it, is how you describe yourself as a nonconformist. Um, that has been a very strong part of my identity as well. And that has caused me problems wherever I've worked. I wouldn't say that I have failed, but I would say that I failed a number of times in connecting with people in a way so as to convince them, connecting with them in a way so as to convince, persuade, or make them see my point of view about things. And but I resisted the temptation to say, "Oh, they're idiots," or "They don't know better," or "I'm going," blah. It's not worth it. I find myself returning to the battlefield. I find myself returning with the renewed vigor. I find myself going in, and it's interesting that I found myself, landing in Gujranwala at Gift, where I'm surrounded by people like that. I'm surrounded by people who, maybe started out at LUMS or started out at, UMT or started out at somewhere, but being labeled as misfits one way or the other, landed up at Gift University, where the management is, I believe, brilliant because they know that they need people with the strong credentials as well as with a vision to want to do something different. And
Different.
they allow us to do things differently.
Really? That
And
is
so, yeah, I
interesting.
was sharing that
I'll
with my
send,
wife the other day.
I'll
She
send
was
you
like,
my,
"Oh,
I'll send
so
you my resume.
our, yeah, our rector is Dr. Fahim. And you may remember Dr. Fahim from LUMS. That's where he started out. And then he was member of
Oh,
planning commission. And then Dr. Kasir Durrani used to be founder of FAST.
okay.
So we have luminaries like that,
Interesting.
landing from all over, Pakistan. And so it's kind of like, I would say it's intellectuals' paradise. When intellectuals die, they come to a place called Gift.
Really?
They're
Wow.
killed by the established academia or the
Okay.
so so we
That's
find
good to hear.
our paradise there. वो
So in
बड़ा
other
अच्छा
words,
है ना, सूरह
there's
वाकया
a
में क्या था?
sir, sir.
सूरह वाकया शुरू होती है ना, तो उसमें वो है कि अ, अम, वअस- या वल मुकर्रबून मुत्तकीन अलैहा मुतकाबिलीन. कि जो जन्नत का है ना, कि अक्सर लोगों को एक कॉन्सेप्ट है कि जी हूरें होंगी और ये होगा और वो होगा। तो जन्नत का सूरह वाकया में जहाँ से शुरू हो रही है ना, वहाँ पे एक कॉन्सेप्ट है कि वो दोस्त आमने सामने तकिए लगाए बैठे गपशप लगा रहे हो।
I get it. I get it. So you
And
found your Jannat there.
there is nothing like that.
Is that right?
You know, that is paradise.
Acha. Okay. That's
So,
interesting.
so that's a place where I found really like-minded people.
Mhm. और I think educational institution, if you would allow me, होना भी ऐसे चाहिए कि फ्रीडम ऑफ थॉट हो, यू नो, एटलीस्ट टीचर के पास हो, स्टूडेंट्स के पास हो, कि और वहीं क्रिएटिविटी आती है. Until you don't allow students to speak, to do, to screw up, you know, and the professors, teachers, the faculty, and what have you, तो फिर वो क्रिएटिविटी कहाँ से आएगी, इजादात कहाँ से आएंगी, नए आइडियाज कहाँ से आएंगे, अगर हाथ पैर बांध के ही आपने उनको रखना है, तो ये नहीं करो, thou shall not drink, thou shall not do this, thou shall not do that, well, okay, please carry on, I got carried away. Yeah.
Very great, thank you. So that way I feel that we need to look at this whole notion of success and failure in a non-binary way, because every failure, as you well know, is most failures are not complete failures. They are there is a lot of success within failure. The world is not that black and white. Huh? We have a tendency to attribute failure to maybe what is a partial failure, and we have a tendency to attribute the label success to something what might be a partial success, because every success has some failures in it. You know, like I think my failure at being a musician actually allowed me to become a psychologist, and my failure at being very good at jobs allowed me a career as a corporate trainer, because that is where I was my own boss and I was doing my own thing. So, you know, every failure, every cloud has a silver lining, and every failure allows success in another area. But you know, I still haven't given up on the music. I'm
Okay.
just
That's a good one. Actually, I'm scared now. मैंने भी दो गाने रिकॉर्ड करके आई थिंक अपनी वाइफ को वो कर दिए थे एनिवर्सरी पे, तो आई नीड टू रीविजिट दोस, दे आर ऑन यूट्यूब, उनकी शायद नजर नहीं पड़ी और उसपे दो 250 व्यूज है.
नहीं, वो नजर नहीं, वो इत्तेफाक से होता है कि दे हैव सम ऑटोमेटिक सॉफ्टवेयर,
हाँ,
और यूट्यूब जो
algorithms
है
है.
it picks out the tunes, it picks out the sounds, and it, you know, sort of then creates a match, and then says this matches this. उससे मुझे एक फायदा हुआ, मुझे नहीं पता था कि वो जो गाना है ये क्या हुआ, उसकी एक बंगाली वर्जन भी है, एक ही
ओके.
होला, और एक ही होला जो है वो जो है हे एक ही होला, इत्तेफाक से वो पिक्चराइज भी राजेश खन्ना पे हुआ, बट इट्स इन अनदर मूवी, इट्स इन अ बंगाली मूवी, and so one learns new things, at least, if nothing
Yeah,
else.
yeah, right. So, how did you end up as a psychologist? What brought you to psychology?
See, psychology, actually, I wouldn't say I ended up there, because I started out there. My father was a psychologist. He was a
Yes,
pioneer of psychology in Pakistan.
Pakistan.
Set up the first institution, first department of psychology at Government College Lahore. He set up the National Institute of Psychology, the Center of Excellence in Islamabad, and so on.
Oh,
So we would talk, you know, every time. मैं आपको एक छोटी सी मजे की मिसाल बताता हूँ कि
sure.
how much psychology was there in our daily discourse. मैं टीवी देख रहा था, मेरे साथ मेरा छोटा भाई बैठा था. I was 7 years old and he was 6. तो टीवी पे कोई खूबसूरत सी एक्ट्रेस किसी एडवर्टाइजमेंट में आई. तो मेरे छोटे भाई अरहम ने कहा और आसिर दी फेवरेट एक्ट्रेस आ गई।
Okay.
अच्छा, मैंने बड़ी हैरानी से उसे देखा कि यार मैं तो जानता भी नहीं हूँ, मुझे पता भी नहीं है कि मेरी फेवरेट एक्ट्रेस कहाँ से हो। तो आई प्रोटेस्टेड, तो माय फादर वाज लिसनिंग, ही सेड अरहम जड़ा ना प्रोजेक्ट कर रहा है, ਇਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ प्रोजेक्शन। मैं किसी की मतलब कि वो अपनी जड़ी अनकॉन्शियस विश है ना, वो खुद तो नहीं कह सकता कि यार कितनी खूबसूरत एक्ट्रेस है, मैनू की नहीं पसंद है,
कंधे पे
ऐसे
रख के चला रहा
है अब्बे ने कहना इनू की होया, तो इसलिए वो ताड़े मुंह दे उत्ते बोल रहा है कि यार आसिर नु की नहीं पसंद।
था।
I still remember that story. So, psychoanalysis, unconscious mind, defense mechanisms, we grew up talking about this stuff.
Lovely,
So
lovely.
I so I always knew I wanted to be a psychologist. My mother, by the time we were sort of growing up, had this idea, वो जो typical होता है ना कि जी डॉक्टर या CSP। तो मैंने उन्हें वो चक्कर ये दिया, मैंने कहा जी CSP उन्हें, तो वो मुझे पता था कि that means कि she will allow me not to pursue medical college but go through BA in the MSc route. And once I did my MSc, I was already applying for PhD to American universities because that was my dream. So, so
Interesting.
that's how I would say that.
Great. Um, Before we would bring this to an end, मैं चाहूँगा कि कोई younger generation को या मेरे जैसे older generation को कोई message आप देना चाहे, कोई motivation, कोई inspiration.
देखिए, मैं तो सिर्फ एक ही बात करूंगा अपने यंग लोगों से कि एक सिंपल मैसेज है, और वो आई थिंक दैट फॉर मी हैज बीन द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट मैसेज दैट आई डू इन ऑल माय वीडियो, ऑलमोस्ट ऑल माय वीडियोस। और वो एक सिंपल चीज है। हम लोग ये कहते हैं, जब किसी से पूछो ना कि भाई आप परेशान क्यों हैं, तो वो ये कहते हैं जी हालात खराब है, मैं इसलिए परेशान। अच्छा, डॉक्टर एल्बर्ट एलिस इज द पर्सन हु popularized the slogan, you feel the way you think. And he says that 90% of our misery comes from our interpretation of the situation, and the 10% actually comes from the situation itself. So, somebody loses their job. Now, let's say that's a very, very upsetting situation. But when we say, सब कुछ खत्म हो गया है, मेरी नौकरी खत्म हो गई है, तो ठीक है, दैट स्टेटमेंट इज करेक्ट कि मेरी नौकरी खत्म हो गई। दैट स्टेटमेंट इज ऑल्सो करेक्ट कि ये काफी तकलीफ दे और काफी इनकन्वीनियंट है, राइट?
True.
लेकिन व्हेन वी से कि इट्स अ डिजास्टर, I can now do nothing to provide for my family, everything is over, that can easily lead to severe
Depression.
depression, suicidal thoughts and so on. So बड़ा जरूरी है कि हम ये ब्रेक जो है ना बीच में, between the environment, between the situation and our emotional reaction, बीच में जो इंटरप्रिटेशन हो रही है, पहले उसको डिटेक्ट करें, आइडेंटिफाई करें, फिर उसको चैलेंज करें। Everything is not over. In fact, it could be the beginning, it could be the start of something new,
Yeah,
could be the start of something, much better.
very much better.
And so, yeah, I would say the message that I want to give everyone is learn that your emotional reactions are not to the environment, but how you interpret the environmental situation. I'm not saying that a painful situation is not painful. I'm just saying that a painful situation is exactly that, painful, not more than 100% painful, because that's illogical. And by calling it catastrophic and awful or terrible or disastrous, we're actually calling it more than 100% painful, which it isn't. So thank you very
Beautifully
much
put.
for having me.
Beautifully put, Doctor साहब। वही वाली बात कि this too shall pass. वक्त एक सा नहीं रहता। I think that's a wonderful message. So thank you so very much for your time.
You're
Audience,
welcome.
as such, कोई questions नहीं है, कुछ एक आध दो appreciations थी। Nevertheless, thank you again for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you. You take care of yourself, sir.
It
Allah
was mutual.
Hafiz.
Thank you very much. Khuda Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Allah Hafiz.